Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm doing something I don't normally do. I'm filming on a Sunday. I try not to film on Sundays, but I didn't film Friday, and I want to get all these videos out. So I'm filming today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. So I'm not sure if you guys watch this channel called MsMojo. They do top 10 stuff from TV shows and other things, and they recently, actually today, posted a video on top 10 Dreamworks couples. Now, of course, they have obviously seen all Dreamworks movies. I have not. I went through and picked my top 10 Dreamworks couples, and I will say our number one is the same, and you guys can probably guess what my number one is. And like I said, because I haven't seen every Dreamworks movie, and they didn't include all Dreamworks movies, I picked my top 10, and I will say, I do have 4 How to Train Your Dragon ones on here, So coming in at number 10 is Moses and Zipporah. Now, of course, this was on their top 10, and this was an honorable mention. Now, of course, this relationship is biblical, but the way they portrayed it in the movie actually isn't that bad. Also, Zipporah starts out as someone that was taken hostage by the Egyptians, and then meets Moses and Ramses as princes, and she despises them, even escaping from Moses, who is she's not technically a woman he can do whatever he pleases with, which kind of is unsettling. But the best part is he lets her escape. But then when he leaves Egypt, he meets up with her again, and of course she kind of gets her revenge by pushing him back down the well that he fell down. But despite it, these two somehow end up falling in love. Coming in at number 9 is Spirit and Rain. Now, of course, this was not mentioned in MsMojo's video, and of course, you would say, yeah, they're animals. That doesn't really count as a couple. But if you think about it, Ginger and Rocky are chickens. Toothless and the Light Fairy are dragons. Puss in Boots and whatever that kitty's name is, I haven't seen Puss in Boots, whatever her name is, animals. But of course, those animals talk. These two don't. But we can clearly see the relationship between Spirit and Rain. I love Spirit's Dying the Cimarron, not so much the remake, or, well, I wouldn't say remake, but I guess you could say remake. I don't really like that. But Spirit and Rain, it's clear that when he first meets Rain, this relationship was going somewhere. And near the end, when Rain gets shot, he decides not to leave her until the soldiers pretty much drag him away. And the fact that Little Creek was willing to let her go to live with Spirit in the wild just shows how much he cared for Rain, but also you could see how much she cared for Spirit. Now, coming in at number 8, this is the only one that I am not 100% sure about, is Eep and Guy. I've only seen the first group, haven't seen the second one. Don't particularly want to, but I would if I had to. So, and of course, Eep and Guy, the first movie, the relationship was good because I think Eep was looking for some type of escape because her parents and her family were protected, but then again, based on the type of world they're living in, it kind of expected. When then she meets Guy, who shows her that you don't have to be afraid of the world, and I think she admired that about it. Coming in number 7 is Ginger and Rocky. Now, of course, I haven't seen Chicken One in a while because I have it on VHS. Just recently got a VHS player. Not sure if it's working yet. But this was pretty much the only Dreamworks movie I owned growing up until I was about maybe 9. This was pretty much the only Dreamworks movie I owned, except for maybe Shrek, and then I was kind of didn't want to watch Shrek because I was scared of the dragon. and then I got the rest. But this was pretty much one of the first DreamWorks movies I ever owned and watched and loved it. My parents actually watched it with me a few times too, so they seem to enjoy it as well. But Ginger and Rocky it's a little different because it's unexpected. You know, his relationship with the chickens on Tweety's chicken farm was based on lies, and the fact that they believed he could fly, and that was going to be their escape out. And let's not forget that last scene before they make it to that wild place when she slaps him and says, "That's for leaving," I believe she says, and this is everything else. Kind of reminds me of Pick of an Asteroid with, she says it twice in How to Train Your Dragon. The first time is, "That's for," what does she do when she flips him over? She says, "That's for," I don't remember what she says. I only remember the second time when she punches him and said, "That's for scaring me," and that's for everything else. So it kind of reminds me of that, which I'm not sure if Dean DeBlow and Chris Sanders and I remember Bonnie something, if not sure if they stole that line or not. Who knows? Coming in at number 6, first Cartoon Dragon Mission. I'm actually surprised I put this at number 6 and how this is not number 10. Breathnut and Fish Lakes. So now I may be surprised here that I don't have Dagger and Mole on the list. I mean, Dagger and Mole, not really much is known about them. I can't really put them on a list. Fish Lakes and Heather, I liked that relationship. That was a good one, but it didn't seem right to me. Now, of course, Fish Lakes and Breathnut, again, doesn't really seem right. But I'm used to it. I mean, if you think about it, in the episode Starlo gets the axe when Tuffnut accidentally marries them and then finds that he can't actually marry people. When they said, you know, "Oh yeah, well, thanks for being married to me for like a day," you could tell that there was something there. And then when Fish Lakes and Starlight start fighting over Repnut, she mostly just let them kept fighting because she liked the attention. Then she saw Aaron and she's like, "Oh, screw you guys." But at the end of the third movie, when Fish Lakes is crying at Hiccup Nash's wedding, she's like, "Okay, you win. I like sensitive men." So I think there had always actually been something there, but neither of them just wanted to really admit it. Okay, coming in at number 5 is Joseph and Osuna. For some reason, everyone always forgets about Joseph King of Dreams when it comes to DreamWorks. Maybe it's because of how underrated it is. Okay, so now, the last few, so Eep and Guy were on there. I'm not sure remember what number they were. Also, Ginger and, Rocky were, but I'm not sure what number they were either. But these last two actually weren't. Probably a good thing for Roughnut and Fish Lakes. But I like Joseph and Osuna just because Osuna seems to be the first person to accept him for who he is and not who Egypt expects him to be. And even after he is renamed Zlatophane, I cannot pronounce it, and is made governor of Egypt, he lets her call him Joseph, and she accepts him for who he was, but she also is the one that tells him, you know, maybe it's time to forgive your brothers, you know, they've seemed to have changed, maybe it's time you change too. And she sings the reprise of Bloom from that song, and I like the first line, "How must there be anger here?" So I love this relationship, so I'm really glad they made it in my top 5. I'm kind of rethinking this list. Moving on to number 4. And I don't know why this is number 4 and not number 3. But it is like 10 after 10, and I'm tired and I'm working tomorrow, so maybe that's why. Toothless and the Light Fury. Okay, so you know, as my top 4 are all How to Train Your Dragon. And that was purposeful. So, with Toothless and the Light Fury, so there is a scene in How to Train Your Dragon, Race to the Edge, I don't remember what the episode's called, but it's the episode where Hiccup and Ash should take a weekend off. They go on this evening flight thing, and the dragons are letting them, do the ride thingy. But I kind of cringe at a bit because in the books, Toothless had a thing for Stormfly. Now, of course, Toothless and the Light Fury, that was a good relationship, and, if you guys watched the Geek Apprentice, I don't know, but she did a video, which I will link in the description, along with the MsMojo video. She did a video on how the Light Fury and Toothless mirror Hiccup and Ash's relationship. If you think about it, the way it started out, kind of like Hiccup and Astrid, the way it went, kind of like Hiccup and Astrid. Pretty much Hiccup and Astrid, but it's different because this is more of a dragon relationship. Now, of course, once again, like Spirit and Rain, these guys don't talk. But, once again, Hiccup was willing to let Toothless go into the hidden world to be with her. He even said, "You belong with her now." So, the Light Fury actually was a good pick for Toothless, so I'm really glad what the writers did here, even though I don't really like the third movie as much as the other two. Okay, moving on to number 3. This one isn't actually a real, romantic relationship or couple. I'd say this is more of a bromance between Snarlout and Tuffnut because they aren't actually a couple, which is probably a good thing, because otherwise they would not be on my list. Sorry, but that's just how I feel. So Tuffnut and Snarlout, more of a bromance, especially after... Again, I can't remember the name of the episode. I just spent an entire week watching How to Train Your Dragon Miss the Age. I just can't remember the episode. But there's an episode where they technically become best friends, and I guess they kind of stay that way even after Snarlout starts trying to get Ruffin's attention, and Tuffnut does say, "Nope, still hates you." But we see in Homecoming them pretty much hanging out. So I guess you could say it is more of a bromance. I guess kind of like what Jack and MacGyver have in MacGyver. And it's number 3 just because it's unlikely fitting, because Snarlout seems to be this guy that only really cares about himself and is full of himself. Doesn't really like the twins, then again, he doesn't really like anyone. Except maybe Asher from time to time. And then Tuffnut can seem like he's an idiot, but I believe he's actually a genius. Like I said, unlikely pairing, very, very, very unlikely pairing, somehow worked into a bromance, which is really interesting. Alright, coming in at number 2, Stoic and Valka. Even though it was short-lived, and they were only in together for 10 minutes of How to Train Your Dragon 2, it still is a very beautiful relationship, because we can clearly see in the first movie, the first movie it's not as obvious, but in the TV shows, it is quite obvious that Stoic really did miss Valka, and Stoic and Valka were soulmates. Even in the third movie, when Hiccup has flashbacks, I think it's the third movie, yeah, and Hiccup asks Stoic, "Are you gonna find us a new mom?" And he's like, "I don't want another one." And then he says, "Son, with love comes loss." That's part of the deal, sometimes it hurts, but in the end it's all worth it, there's no greater gift than love. And Stoic actually taught that with Hiccup, both with his relationship with Toothless and Astrid. Now, of course, these last 3 also weren't on the list. I really wish Stoic and Valka could have at least made it to honorable mentions, because that is such a beautiful relationship. And just the fact that Valka was Stoic, she's you're probably wondering why I left and why I didn't come back and why I left to raise Hiccup alone. She tries to explain it, then she's like, say something, please. And he could have said anything. He could have yelled at her. He could have said, "Why did you leave me with Hiccup alone?" He's like, "Why didn't you at least tell me you were alive?" But he says, "You're as beautiful as the day I lost you." Always love that. It always gets me. Always gets me. And just the fact that he is willing to let her come in back into his life so quickly just shows how much he really does love her. And of course, number one, and this was also number one for MsMojo, Hiccup and Astrid. Of course, for me, obvious choice. If you are a How to Train Your Dragon fan, if you are a Hickstrid shipper, obvious choice. There is nothing better than Hiccup and Astrid's relationship. I think it might be the best. Well, I'm not the only one. MsMojo agrees with me. That channel. I think this is the best relationship in all DreamWorks movies. Yes, bold statement I know, but I can say it. Hiccup and Astrid started out as friends, actually unlikely friends, because the first movie, Hiccup had no friends. Astrid is a warrior who is willing to fight for whatever cause she deems worthy. She becomes the first one to believe in Hiccup. She even says in the third movie that she is who she is because of Hiccup. Doesn't get much better than that. So that's going to this video. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video, which will probably also be on relationships in DreamWorks movies, but not couples. I'm going to do just some of my favorite relationships. Right, see you.